Hey, David, how's it going?
Hey, good. Thanks. How you doing, man?
Good. I'm great. We just got off an awesome recording. We got to speak with Claude Condo, and just wanted to bring it to you guys today. Claude is a really interesting individual. He originally is from Rwanda, Africa, came over to the country, became a pharmacist. It really has an incredible, inspiring journey of how he went from pharmacist to beginning real estate investor. Now he's a pretty expansive commercial real estate investor. Just a really incredible story of growth and development. I'm really excited to bring it to you guys today.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love about his story too is that there's a lot of stories in the real estate space about people that like hate their job and they go jump into real estate so that they can leave a job that they
Right.
hate, right? And this felt very much the opposite of that. In fact, he was a pharmacy manager. He really wanted to own his own pharmacy, and by getting involved with real estate, he was able to create enough passive income and enough cushion that he could open his own store and achieve his goals, and then not only open his own pharmacy but then open a second pharmacy. And so he was able to achieve his pharmacy goals by real estate investing helping him to get there. So that was just really fun to see how that came together for him.
Yeah, and wait till you hear some of the numbers that Claude throws around in terms of what he's been able to achieve with some of these buildings. It really changes your perspective, and it shows why he's been able to do things like starting his own charity foundation to give back to Africa and helping build schools and all the things that he's doing to really take his experience and all the things that he's done and give back to the communities that helped him get there. And I just think that's really, really impressive. And again, it comes across really well in this interview.
Yeah, he talks a lot about the pivot from residential single family real estate investing, which I think is what helps a lot of people get started and is how he got started as well. And he talks about that jump from residential to commercial and how making that jump allowed him to create a lot more cash flow, a lot more revenue from the real estate that allowed him to dream bigger and achieve bigger goals. And I think that's really interesting, not only to see kind of what those numbers are as he puts a few of those numbers out there just to give perspective, but then also talk about that strategy of how to do that as well if someone's looking to make that jump.
Yeah, some great nuggets. Hopefully, you guys enjoy. With that, I won't hold you back. Let's take you right to the interview. Hey, Claude, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited to chat. I know you and I got to connect a couple weeks back, and I learned more about what you've been up to, and just felt like it was a perfect story to share with our audience. So, why don't we jump right in? Tell us a little bit about your pharmacy background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my name is Claude Condo. I've been pharmacist for the last 22 years. And then I worked for the chain for 10 years of those 22 years. And then I opened my store from scratch. I couldn't find any store that was for sale. So I opened from scratch. It was a journey. It was not easy. And today we have two stores. So, you know,
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, and then in addition to the journey of pharmacy and opening two stores, which is a big task in and of itself, you have this thing going on with real estate also. So tell us about that journey as well.
yeah. So it started when I was working for the chain.
Hmm.
I think it was 2006, 2007. I can just a backstory. I was working for the chain. I was a pharmacy manager. I was picking up shifts at different stores, right? And then I met this guy. He was older than me. He was a pharmacist. And then he had a stroke at work. So, and after that, and then a couple months later, I saw him back at work. I'm like, Joe, what are you doing here? You should be home and rest. And he's like, no, I have to come back. I can't afford to be on disability. And then I told myself, there must be a different way. I need to
Mhm.
find a way to look for something that doesn't require me to be present, right? So that's why my real estate started. Um, and that's my big why. I'm like, I need to find a horizontal passive income that can supplement my earned income. So that was my journey as a real estate investor. Of course, every single one, you start on residential, start buying single houses. And then to me, it was just a perfect timing. 2008, when the market crashed. So I was like, everybody was scared. I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity to start buying stuff at really cheap. I live in Miami, Florida. So they went to from like 250,000 a single house to 20,000, like crazy. So I started picking up those and working overtime at the chain and picking up those stuff, and so that's where I started. And to me, it was just like a perfect storm, perfect timing. So
I think that resonates with so many other pharmacists, right? We love our careers. We start again. Maybe we're lucky enough to start our own pharmacy, um, but it doesn't have to be the only thing, right? We don't have to be defined by only our profession.
mhm.
It's a piece of what we do, and I think you looked at that with that again huge eye opener right in front of you of this is an important piece, but it cannot be the only piece for me, or I'm not going to be living the life that I want. So I love that you took that opportunity and then saw the what was going on in the world around you and said, look, I can use that to really further this. I think that's awesome. So if, I know I want to get to the commercial stuff because that's where your bread and butter is. But
Yeah.
before we do that, like what was that first place like? And how did you get the confidence to go and buy that?
Man, it was hard, right? Because you could see everyone was scared back in 2008. Like they were like
Yeah.
running away from real estate. But that has been a my way of looking at stuff. I've looked for an agent that was specialized in with investors, right? So I took that agent. He mentored me, and I bought the first house, which was it was a nice community by a lake. It was really nice. That house, a year before, was sold at 250, and then when we purchased it, it was at $29,000 in
Wow.
2008. So, and I couldn't find any bank to finance that deal because the bank were scared of real estate as well. So I had to borrow from my sister family, and then we came up with that $29,000, and that was my first one. So I
Wow.
put a tenant there that was paying me $950 per month. So right above, it was like I should be doing this more often than, you know, because I was making profit day one. Uh,
Sure.
so yeah, that was my first one. It was hard because every single friend of mine, my colleagues, was telling them, "I'm about to buy this." Like, what are you doing? But thank God I forced myself to go. And the other part too I did was I hired a coach from Rich Dad Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki.
Mhm.
I hired him at 2007, 2008. So this guy has been helping me as well change my mindset. Like, you are doing the right thing. I've done it before. I have 20 houses and this is normal. Just to kind of like hold my hand and walk me through. So I had those two people, the real estate agent that was catered to investors, and my coach from Rich Dad Poor Dad. And of course those are just, it was hard, it was expensive, right, to have that coach as well. But I thought to myself, I have to minimize my mistakes. So the only way to reduce my learning curve is to hire someone that has been there where I'm trying to go. So those are the key people that helped me start my real estate investment.
So I like that, trying to define the where you're trying to go, because I think that a lot of pharmacists jump in, they're like, I just have to buy one house. They buy one house and they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then they set their sights on a different goal, right? So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got in, you got the house, you hired a coach that had 20 houses. Was there some metric then that was like your next goal threshold? Was it to get 5 or 10 or 20, or what came next as far as that where you're trying to go?
Yeah, so after that, I was like, of course you get calls from tenants saying, "Hey, my
Mhm.
toilet is clogged, come help me." But it was to me, it was easier than doing working for the chain, right? So I started doing, how can I, because I usually read a nice book that, those the story of the parable. Like, there were three guys. They gave them 5 talent, 10 talent, 1 talent. So to me, I was like, okay, my seed. I usually look myself as a farmer, right? So I have a seed, which is my earned income. I cannot consume that seed. I need to put that seed and put in the soil, a better soil, and produce fruit, right? So to me, I was like, I'm gonna live in a small place, save as much as I can, and start buying those houses one by one. So my goal is to be like my coach, buying 20 houses and retire, right? So that I can replace my earned income. And but along that journey, I noticed that it was so hard, getting calls all the time. So I was like, there must be a different way. So I started buying duplex, and a small unit, small apartment unit in Miami that could be self-managed. I can bring a property manager to manage those stuff so I can focus on what I do best, which is being a pharmacist and serving my community. Um, yeah, so that's where I went. My second phase was buying those duplexes, small apartment units, and put a management to manage and collect rent and respond to customers, calls and questions. Um,
Yeah, I know. We've talked several times on different episodes about the value of property management because you're right. In our line of work, it's oftentimes difficult to take a call in the middle of the day and troubleshoot something with a tenant. But having a property manager there makes it so much easier to go from one to 5 or 10 or 20 or whatever that looks like without it interfering with your pharmacy job. Absolutely.
for sure. Yeah.
And then, Claude, so then from there, so right, so you're starting to scale up. You're getting to this small apartments, and eventually you started to shift into commercial real estate. And so, tell us about that introduction, because again, that's a big leap, right? All of us are kind of used to buying a home. We can extrapolate that to an investment home. I think that's an easy jump to make. But commercial feels like this fuzzy thing sometimes that it's hard to get a grasp on. So, how did you make that transition?
Yeah. Before I go to that transition, so I noticed, well, when I was working for the chain, that my income from my passive income was almost 50% of my earned income from the chain. I was like, this is the time to start
Mm,
owning my own pharmacy, right? So I started looking to buy pharmacies, but I couldn't find anyone. So any to buy. So I start from scratch, my wife and I. So, but because of the passive income we're getting from real estate, that transition was easy, right? Because I didn't have any income from, because you're opening a brand new business, no income for the next for the next 6 months. So
yeah.
that passive income was helping us through that transition. And we had a baby too. We had a firstborn. So it was hard, man. It was hard. So, but passive income was really a life changing, right? Because we pay our technician from the passive income, we're paying our rent from the pharmacy from our passive income, and paying our basic stuff. So
Wow.
it was, and then once the business pharmacy was stabilized, we're like, okay, how can we scale up now? How can we go back to our second passion, which is real estate, to scale up, right? So, and then 2017, real estate went crazy, massive appreciation in Miami. So we took all those single house, duplexes, small units, we sold it, and we took that money, which was quite size a good amount of money, and we start looking for commercial. So, commercial is a different beast. Residential, you like a house, you go buy it, right? Commercial, you have to know the seller, you have to go interview with the sellers. They have to be comfortable selling their prize assets to you. And then the brokers need to trust you that you can close the deal. The lenders or the bank need to know that you have enough net worth to afford to pay this commercial building. So it was a journey. Again,
Yeah.
I hired a coach for commercial so they can teach me how to do that as well. So yeah, our first deal was really hard. It took us almost 7 months calling lenders, calling brokers, calling sellers, and eventually we end up with these doctors based in Tennessee. He was trying to retire. He was 85 years old, so he was trying to retire and leave because he built it was a Davida, which is a dialysis centers, and then there was a 5 nephrologist as well. So it was two tenants. So he was like, I'm ready to retire. I need to rest and all those stuff. So we went to Tennessee. We went to the interview, of course, and then we passed the interview, and then we actually closed the deal. It was 2018, I believe. We closed the deal, and we kept him as a manager, like property management, because he loved the place. He built
Wow.
the building. He put the tenants there. So it was to him, it was so emotional. So I didn't want to break that. So
Yeah.
we kept him as a property manager for the building until he was like, no, I'm done. I'm retiring. So
That's cool.
It feels like there's so many really fun win-win stories in pharmacy or in real estate and pharmacy as well, but in real estate, and this feels like one of those where you're able to keep that person involved, you're able to transition that investment, help them retire. That that feels fantastic. I'm curious about what makes this different because I think a lot of listeners are thinking, well, I've rented an apartment in college and I fill out a 12-month lease and I pay every month and then I call someone for maintenance, but commercial is very, very different from that. Can you walk us through some of those main differences with how a lease is structured and how that works for tenants and how even triple net impacts all of that?
sure, yeah. So commercial real estate is just a vast, it's different niche inside the commercial real estate. So the one we're talking about, it's triple net. So tenants are long term. They are national tenants. So it's a multi-billion dollars company, right? And they sign a long term lease. They sign between 5 to 15 years lease, and then there is a 2% increase every year for the rent. It depends how you structure a contract. So those are long-term leases. So banks usually feel comfortable because it's a long-term lease, and there's they put a lot of money on those dialysis centers, right? One machine might cost $200,000, and they usually have like 18 to 20 of them, and then they operate like 3 shifts or 4 shifts. So it's a sound business. So those are one of the advantage that was attractive to us was the long-term leases. And then the second part was to, like, you can do cost segregation, saving on your taxes. If your business is doing so much money, you can do cost segregation and get those depreciation. So there's so many advantages as far as commercial real estate versus residential. And then the third part was just that guarantee horizontal income or passive income that was coming every month. That's it's our first deal we were making almost $7,000 net every month. The first day we took over the building. So that change of perspectives, we're like, we should be doing this more often, and that's how we started.
Well, that is a big scale difference from a house that rents for $950 a month. You're never going to have $7,000 net on a
Yes.
$950 a month single family house. So yeah, it's playing at a very different level. One of the other things that seems like a different level is just some of the calls that you get and the maintenance. How does maintenance work? Like, do the tenants cover some of these own things? Is it part of their responsibility in a triple net like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the tenants are responsible for all those toilets, all those HVAC, anything like that, because it's a triple net. We are in charge of structure of the building. So if there's any issue with the structure, but any tax, property taxes, insurance for the building, it's passed through the tenant. So the tenant do reimburse us. Um, so it's pretty much I can focus on my business, building my business, and then just have that grow on its own. Yeah, of course, we've been buying triple net, and then we went to government lease as well, where it's kind of like double net, where we have a social security in our portfolio. So it's a different leases, but again, it's a long term. The government do sign like 20 years leases, so you guarantee for 20 years, and then they do adjust their leases every year, according to CPI, which is if there's an inflation going up, they're gonna adjust their rent as well to match the inflation. So
So it sounds like, and again, just to clarify, like, is there any maintenance or any sort of like monthly phone calls coming from those tenants, or is it kind of once you set it up, you're good, and then you just wait for the lease renewal?
no, there is no maintenance from the tenant. There's no cost for those.
Yeah. So I
Nothing.
mean, if you're talking about, again, just as a pharmacist, thinking about, okay, where do I want to get into real estate? I don't want to be heavily involved in it, but I like the idea of it. Like, that's mailbox money, right? You just go back and be a pharmacist all
Yes.
day, and then it shows up. I think that's really cool. Can you
Yes.
walk us through like
Yes.
how someone might find a triple net lease? So obviously, again, a lot of us are we know the residential space, right? I jump on Zillow, I jump on the MLS with my agent, but are you just jumping onto LoopNet, or like how are you finding these properties? What does that process look like?
Yeah. So that's a great question. As you know, real estate, commercial real estate, at least it's relationship based. So you gotta build relationship with those brokers. you're gonna build relationship with those lenders, right? So how do you start if you're a pharmacist? Um, you're gonna have to invest time on it, right? You're gonna have to build relationship with those brokers. I was blessed to on our first deal to do those research, and back then in 2017, 18, triple net was not that sexy, right? Everybody was going to multifamilies, apartment storage, but so there were less competition, and then brokers were willing to listen to a brand new person. Right now, it's even different. Right now, it's hard because everybody wants to go to triple net. Um, so I think it's just investing in a relationship. Just like how you're a pharmacist, you have relationship with your patient, your providers, same way. Just build relationship with brokers. And now because we've been doing that for a long time, I brokers bring me deals every single day. Sellers are sending me deals like, would you like to get this one? What do you think about this one? So that's the relation that we've been doing for the last 7, 8 years. Um,
That's great.
so
Yeah, that's fantastic. One of the other things that seems very different, not just in working with brokers and finding sellers, but on the lending side, this also seems very relationship driven, from what I understand, and not so much just like, well, I saved up a 5% down payment for the house I'm going to move into, but down payments seem different, terms seem different, duration seem different, requirements seem different. Can you walk us through some of those big picture changes in how commercial real estate is financed?
Yeah, that's a great question. So financing is completely different, right? Like if you go to residential, the bank will tell you this is our term, right? You put 20% down and that's it. This is interest rate. It's 30 years, 30 years, and it's 5%. In commercial real estate, everything is negotiable with the bank, right? So what we do, we have relations with bankers, of course, but we say, hey, the bank is like, I have this term sheet for you. It's 4.75, 25 years amortization. I'm like, no, that doesn't fit my my goals as far as what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 30 years amortization, 5.2% interest rate for 5 years, 10 years. So it's everything is negotiable. Again, it's relationship, right? So and then eventually they'll be like, okay, let's talk to our committee and then we'll come back to you. Usually they'll say yes. And if the bank says no, there's 2 or 3 banks that I'm gonna call and want to get the terms that I want to get for my so I can have for my business. So that's another difference between residential and commercial. It's everything is negotiable.
And in terms of like the down payments and the amount needed, I mean, is it roughly 20% of the building cost, or is it totally variable? It doesn't there's no set number at all.
It's it's variable. Some lenders will ask me like how much you
Hmm.
want to put down, right? I would like to be in the conservative side. I usually put 30
Okay.
to 35%, especially now with the you know interest rate rising up, and so I usually try to be conservative as I can, 30 to 35%. Some lenders will tell me you can put up to 15, you can put 15%, which is because they kind of are comfortable with the tenants, right? And the long-term
Sure.
leases as well. Uh,
And
Yeah,
then
and then these are higher dollar properties also. So 30 or 35% of a
yes,
multi-million dollar building can be a lot of money. Are
yes.
they looking at other things about the person borrowing the money as well? Like, are they looking at your track record or your net worth or your credit score, or is it mostly about the asset, or is it both?
It's both. They're looking at your track record as well. They're looking at like if you're buying a building of $2 million, how is your net worth can support that $2 million? So they're looking all those stuff. They're looking both the building itself as a business. They're looking at that first, and then they look at the borrower. Like, can you afford if the building can't pay rent? Can you afford, or if the building cannot pay our loans, can you afford to pay loans? And so, um, yeah, it's a different game, but I can tell you this year, the first 6 months this year, we made we made passive income that it will take me about like 12 years as a average pharmacy salary to make. So I made
that's
it in
incredible.
6 months. So this if you can get into commercial, I would truly, truly suggest to get into
All
that.
right, so now everyone's going to be dying to know, like, where can I learn more about this? Like, what's the first step? So again, you've done this. You've spent the time doing residential, moving to commercial. If you were
Yeah.
telling somebody today and they're thinking, look, in 5 years, I want to have my first building. Like, what does that look like? What should they be doing now to kind of to start getting toward that point?
Yeah, that's to me it would be
Hmm.
education. Try to educate yourself, knowing those term sheet, knowing cash on cash return, knowing return on investment, knowing depreciations, just the basic stuff. But that should stop you. And what has helped me as well, it's finding someone that has been where I'm trying to go. And just like what you guys are doing, helping pharmacists invest in in investment houses and stuff. Same thing. So finding someone like you on the commercial side and try to mentor them, or finding that mentor that can help you go where you want to go. Um, that'll be my first suggestion.
I love it.
Uh,
Yeah, that what it's clear that you have this passion for educating and for helping other pharmacists come along. I love that piece of what you're doing. I also am hearing about this Condo Foundation. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing there as well?
Yeah, so to me, originally I'm from Africa, right? And it's been such a blessing to be in this country. You have so much opportunities. You can do whatever your dream, you can achieve your dream, right? So I wanted to give back to those kids that cannot have access to what I have access here, right? So we create this foundation, my wife and I, and our church. One of our pastor is part of our board directors to to build schools in Africa. So we have 400 kids right now
Wow.
in our foundation that we pay for their school, we pay for their tuition, we pay for after school classes, we pay for the insurances, and all this stuff is because of our commercial real estate as well. Like all the profit that we do, we take 10% of our profit every year, we put in the foundation, and so that we can really change the world. Because most people don't have access to the information that me and you guys have access to. They don't have opportunity that we have. So to me, it's just personal. Like, how can I help someone else, you know, be better in life, have access to healthcare, have a better education, though. So eventually we can change a village, we can change a region, and we can change a country eventually.
Well, I think
Uh,
that's so incredible. So many people have as part of their mission, right, or as part of their why to help other people
yeah,
to go back and do what they can to help. And you've taken that to a level that many people will never get to. And so it's really cool to learn about that and to
yeah,
talk to you. And I appreciate it. I think that's really awesome. I
yeah. I wanna add something too, if you
Yeah.
don't mind. And then we have this company that we
Yeah.
created this year because our second story was a story that we are in Miami, south of Miami, and then I noticed last year two of my independent pharmacy closed down, and then I'm like, what's happening here? They're like, no, we couldn't. The business is not doing well, and we didn't have any diversification. And then the third one is about to close. That's why we purchased the second store from this pharmacy that has been here for the last 90 years, right? So we purchased from them, and then I was like, wait a minute, I have this access to all this information that about commercial real estate. I have access to mastermind, I have coaching, and I should make it, I should try to bring pharmacists on board as well to teach them about, hey, there's different options, you just, there's stocks, there's retirement, stuff like that, but try to diversify your portfolio as well. Look at the commercial real estate. And so now my mission is, how can I bring 10,000 pharmacists or healthcare professional, you know, through this journey of helping them and become, build generation wealth, and I shouldn't keep the information to myself. I should make it, available to everyone. That's why I'm transparent with what we made and all those that we're saying, because I want to make sure that, you know, there's different options. There's a bunch of ways to make money. And as you know, our profession as a pharmacist, this is personal to me. Our profession as a pharmacy, right, is getting shrink, like pressured from payers, from especially on the independent side, right? Payers, all those stuff, and we are having less voice. So I want to make sure that we have a stronger voice. And one part of it, it's being financial free, being, having options as an owner, right? So
Yeah, that's great, Claude. I appreciate you sharing that, and we'll make sure to put that in the show notes too, and let people know where they can track you down. I want to jump to our final infusion questions. 3 questions we ask every guest that comes on the show. The first one, and if you've given us some tips here, but just to really hone in on it, what's one tangible strategy that you use to make sure that your investing works hand in hand with your career as a pharmacist?
yeah, that's a good question. I'm reading this book. It's called Who Not How. Have you
Yeah.
guys read that book? Yeah, it's have been helping me change my mindset, right? Because like as a business owner, like if we start a program in our pharmacy, for example, vaccination, I usually ask myself like, how can I launch this vaccination program, right? Which is a wrong thinking, at least personally. Instead of saying like, who can I give
Mhm.
this task? That has proven a track record of doing this successfully. So that has changed my mind. And so right now we have pharmacy managers in our both stores. So they are doing their job so I can focus more on the real estate side of it. So, and that exactly the same with my coach. I want to do syndication deals. I'm like, who has done it before that I can learn from? So, and that's why, coaching, what you guys are doing again, it's so important, coaching people to get where they want to go. So to me, it's hiring who's versus trying to
Mhm.
do it by yourself.
That's great.
Love it. Love it. What's one resource that's been most helpful to you in your real estate journey? And maybe that's a book, podcast, person, author, website. Maybe it's a coach in your case, whatever that would be.
To me it's been to be in the right environment, right? The right like-minded people. I have like 5 guys that we meet every single week, and these guys have 50 to 100 million dollars of real estate. So these people have been shaping my mind, right? So being in that environment that you want to be 5 years, 10 years from now, and being in that environment now has changed my life completely. And so those people are holding me accountable. They are transparent. We're sharing our success, our failures, our issues, our staff issues, family issues. So we are like brothers, right? And then we've been meeting every single week for the last 4 years. So that being in that group is great. And then I'm part of course, I have a business coach, I have a health coach, I've, and that those people are just helping me kind of like reach my goals, my visions, my missions, and so just being part of that environment, like listening to your podcast, stuff like that. That what you're trying to go in 5 years, find those people now and be part of their
I
stuff.
love that. That's
So
great. All right. And then what's one piece of advice, if you could boil it down to just one thing, one piece of advice you give to a pharmacist that's contemplating a start in real estate investing?
I'll say again, educate yourself, but more importantly, hiring a coach that can help you get there. I mean, I cannot say it enough. Hiring someone that has done it before has changed my life. And finding people like what you guys doing for the industry, it's still good. Just finding a coach, read yourself, finding educate yourself, of course, but finding another coach that can hold your hands, it's always important.
Very good. With the goal that you have of involving 10,000 pharmacists or healthcare professionals, I know that you want to spread this word and you want to share this information. If people are looking to learn more from you and about you, where could people find you?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on Facebook. I usually don't post anything on Facebook. It's probably LinkedIn. That's my where I post ideas and book I'm reading and so forth. And then we have our website. It's called rxrei.com, where they can find blogs, podcasts. We'll be launching podcasts soon. So there will be a bunch of information there as well for people to know more and find our missions and you know. So
I
yeah.
love it. Well, Claude, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Really awesome talking with you. Looking forward to seeing where you go next. And again, encourage people to reach out to you if they want to learn more about what you're doing, and just again, the incredible journey that you've been on so far. So really appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the YFP Real Estate Investing Podcast. If you like what you heard on today's show, please leave us a review and subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. If you have a question, know someone that would make a good guest, or want to connect with Nate or David, head on over to yfprealestate.com and join the growing YFP Real Estate Investing Facebook group. As we conclude this week's episode of the YFP Real Estate Investing Podcast, an important reminder that the content in this podcast is provided to you for your informational purposes only and is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for investment or any other advice. Information in the podcast and corresponding materials should not be construed as a solicitation or offer to buy or sell any investment or related financial products. We urge listeners to consult with a financial advisor with respect to any investment. Furthermore, the information contained in our archived newsletters, blog posts, and podcasts is not updated and may not be accurate at the time you listen to it on this podcast. Opinions and analyses expressed herein are solely those of your financial pharmacist, unless otherwise noted, and constitute judgments as of the dates published. Such information may contain forward-looking statements which are not intended to be guarantees of future events. Actual results could differ materially from those anticipated in the forward-looking statements. For more information, please visit yourfinancialpharmacist.com/disclaimer. Thank you for your support of the YFP Real Estate Investing Podcast. Have a great rest of your week.